Okay, here's an install video for the D.T.P kickstand from Dan's Treasure Products. I've got all my parts laid out here, a couple of tools. Should have 8 parts total. I've got 2 of the pivot blocks here shown, just showing the 2 color options we're going to have for now, silver and then the black. The silver is going to show a little better on camera, so I'm going to use that for this video. Starting with your machine screw, I'm going to take the black plastic washer, if you can get your hands on it, put that on the machine screw. Then you take the kickstand itself, and going from the bottom side, the flat side with no logo, you're going to want to thread that in. Once that's threaded in, you take your rubber washer, put that over the threads of the screw. Now the next step will be, next several steps actually will be with the pivot block. Move the black one out of the way. I'm just going to use a silver one for the rest of this video. Now from here, this will eventually attach to this. Your nylon lock nut will go here in this recessed hole, and then your rubber strip will go over all of that. You'll mount it to the frame of the machine, put your Velcro strap on after you fasten this to the machine, and then the final step will be to attach this. So I'm not going to put this on right now because I'm going to show you how and where to mount this on your machine. We'll get back to these parts here in a few minutes. So let me get these out of the way. I'm going to bring my machine in. This is a Garrett AT Max. I've got mostly disassembled just for the ease of handling to make this video. So what you're going to want to do is take your pivot block, the larger end you want facing down towards your coil. So with the larger end, you want to line it up and find the spot back here on your frame tube just before the curve here starts, because you don't want to put this on a curved surface. Obviously you want it all to be flush with the frame tube. So find a spot. A lot of times you can tell by feel, depending on how your machine is made. But find a good spot just before the bend. Line that up, and then if you hold down your arm cuff flat on a nice flat surface, then that will flatten, put your pivot block flat. Then just rotate this up, and holding that in place, what you're going to want to do is flip it over. Well, don't lose it like I did. You can flip it over. You can use this rubber strip, just don't cover the back end right here of this. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Just put it back here just where it doesn't, you don't want to cover this hole, excuse me. So just to about there. That's going to help keep this in place so it doesn't rotate around real easy on you as you're trying to find your spot you want to place it. Again, find where your curve starts, or wherever you want the pivot block to be. Hold down your arm cuff, put a little pressure there so it makes sure this is flat to the frame tube. Hold this all in one place. Rotate it over. Now, when you've got it here, you've got the 2 holes. One has a larger recess. That's where your kickstand is going to go. Eventually it's going to line up like this, and then this will pivot depending on whether you've got the machine on the ground or the machine in hand using it. So you don't want to cover this hole. This smaller hole, you're going to want to take a sharp pencil, mechanical pencil or a scribe, and mark this hole to be drilled. Now again, when you do this, make a good mark on your hole there. Make sure your rubber sheet isn't in the way. Otherwise, obviously, it's not going to put a mark on your frame. So get a good mark on your frame. Remove the pivot block, the rubber sheet. Now, you should have a nice mark here, and make sure it looks nice and in line with another reference point on your machine if you have one like the Garrett's do. This screw is obviously going to be nice and centered, as well as these two divots in the arm cuff here. So make sure it looks nice and in line, which of course it's going to be because we had this flat and the pivot block flat on a flat surface. So now you're going to want to drill this hole. When you do this, it's not a good idea to drill while you're holding this in place, because if your drill bit starts to move or walk off of its position, it's going to dig into this, it's going to move it off, and it's all going to be out of alignment, and it's just not going to look or work as nice. So get the block out of the way, and just using the mark that you made, drill this hole with a 7/64 inch drill bit, or the nearest equivalent, whether that's metric, letter number drill bit, whatever you have. Drill that small hole, and then you'll take your number 6 sheet metal screw. It will go in the hole, and that will lock this thing down solid. And once you've done that, then you put your Velcro strap on. Okay, so I drilled mine. I've got it nice and centered. I was going to use my drill press and a vise, but I decided to go ahead and try it without it, just to see if there's any real difficulty or anything to it, and it really wasn't. Just keep in mind, when you are drilling, this is a round surface. Your drill bit is going to want to move around on you as you first start to drill. So just get it centered on your hole, start to drill nice and slow, and just take your time. If it happens to move over a little bit, just go back to your start point. Make sure your drill bit is good and sharp, and once you get the hole started, it should go pretty easy. Just don't try to go too fast, and you should be just fine. Again, I didn't use a vise, didn't really need to. What I did is I just held this down like this on a flat surface, so that gave me a good steady hold, and I just drilled it with a hand drill right there. So I forgot to mention earlier, I talked about the screw, but I didn't show it on the component layout, so apologize for that. So there is actually 9 parts, the 9th one being this stainless steel machine screw. And what that's going to do is that's going to hold your brace, or I'm sorry, your pivot bracket in place right here. Screw goes through there into the frame, and that's the strongest method of install. Now if you really want to, and you're not comfortable drilling a hole, a lot of people think it's going to void their warranty or damage your frame or something like that, but a small hole like that's really not going to affect the integrity of the frame or the structure. But if you don't want to drill, you can use something like a good strong double-sided tape. This that I'm showing here is Gorilla. It's a double-sided mounting tape. Just cut off a piece to fit, put it in here in place of the rubber liner, and then line it up where you want it, make sure it's nice and straight, then just press it on and hold it. After you've got it in place, hold it again and put your Velcro strap on, and that should hold everything just fine. But for me, I like having the screw holding it in place, so I'm going to go ahead and install that. And you want to do that after you have your nylon lock nut from earlier in the recessed hole, then your rubber strip in place over that. So get that all in place, hold that, line it up with your hole, and now with your rubber strip in place, it's going to cover your hole. So hold that, push your screw through, and it lines up nice and easy. Now that 7/64 inch hole is slightly smaller than your screw, so as you tighten the screw in, it's going to be making its threads. So there's going to be some tension there, so hold it in place and go slow, and it is going to take a little effort, not too much though, and just go slow so you don't slip off the screw or anything like that. So you want to tighten it down good and snug, but you don't want to go too much. You are using a stainless steel screw into an aluminum tube, Obviously the stainless steel is going to be stronger. You don't want to strip out the threads you're making when you're screwing this into the aluminum tube. So flip it over. Everything looks nice and straight. It's lined up right where I want it. Final step, or almost final step, last part for the pivot bracket anyway, is take your Velcro, hold down the end that has the wider side on it. Don't let it slip like I did. Hold that in place with one finger, pull it pretty tight, and wrap it around. That's just going to give you a little extra support. It's going to cover the screw up, give it a nice clean finished look. Okay, once you've got your pivot block nice and attached, the rubber strip in place, and your Velcro on, flip it over, take your kickstand with your screw. I took this one out, so let me put that back in real quick. Make sure your rubber washer is in place here and your plastic washer is in place under the head of the screw. Put that in place there on the front part of the pivot block. You want to tighten this down to where it's just snug. Don't over tighten. Just to where you have some tension there. And you can adjust this a little tighter, a little looser, however you like it, for how much effort it takes to do the pivot. That feels pretty good to me. So once it's in place, and you just flip it over while you're using the machine. It'll be in this position. As you go to set the machine down on the ground, just rotate it into place. As you set it in place, your machine will rest somewhere between about this position where the arm cuff is touching, depending on the angle of your coil and the length of your machine, to something like this. So the idea is prevent your machine from tipping over. I'll get this assembled and do another video showing with this attached, so you can see how it prevents a machine from tipping over. But it's pretty obvious. This gives you a lot more extension beyond your arm cuff, so it's going to give you a lot more stability with the machine on the ground, so it doesn't tip over and crack your screen, or in any way mess with your control box, or even just splashing dirt and mud and whatever other kind of nastiness might get on your machine. So pretty simple. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to email me. I'll leave that email address. I'll put that on the end of this video. And thanks for watching, and best of luck digging. Thank you.